Okay, that's going. So your microphone's working.
Okay. Is it working?
They're all muted.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, we'll get started. Okay, so let's start off with a bit of stretch and posture work again. If you can do a bit of a gentle yes nod and roll down one vertebrae at a time until you're hanging in ragdoll. Let me move that. All right, so hang in ragdoll. You can bend your knees, make a box for your head, and I like to stretch out my back, just going side to side a bit. Try coming up to tabletop. This feels wonderful in your upper back. If you need to modify, put your hands on your shins like this. And let's do that a few times. Exhale down. And inhale back to tabletop. Exhale down. Inhale to tabletop. Exhale down. And now restack yourself one vertebrae at a time, starting from your tailbone. Okay, and end again with a gentle yes nod. Hard to show you that on the screen, but that feels wonderful for stretching and opening up your back before playing. Try clasping your hands behind you. You can look up at the ceiling. This is getting some openness through your shoulders and chest. And then let's do the other way. So one elbow out in front, cross underneath for eagle arms. If you want additional stretch, you can lift up a little bit or out. Let's do the other side. Right arm out in front, left arm under. All right. So that's going to be our little stretch for today. If you take a look at this, this is from Paul Rolland. And I really like these diagrams for teaching the right kind of movement and follow through. If you try this first pizzicato, you're going to trace with your index finger this nice kind of teardrop shape for good follow through. And as you pluck, you can also transfer your weight onto your left foot and exhale. Make sure that your arm is adjusting level for each string. So that teaches you some good ways to move to be expressive rather than allowing the instrument to come up and down following the bow. If you set your metronome on 60, we can try doing the same motion with the bow on each string. So we'll do 4 counts. Remember to exhale. When that's comfortable, we'll do 3. And then 2. And the shifting your weight is really just depending on your preference. It can be quite subtle. When you're comfortable with that, try a different string. I'll mute myself so we can all do this at our own pace. All right, so just a reminder from last week, we're also working on dropping the weight of the arm into the string. You can review that both with the fist and with the thumb under if you're still having any trouble holding through your neck and shoulders as you do this. If this is easier for you and you'd like to challenge yourself, it's fun to also practice up bows the same way. So this really helps with a open ringing sound and use of the whole length of the bow. For getting it straight also. If you scroll down, we also worked on setting the bow and making the initial ta for collé. And I'd like to develop a little bit more finger motion and try making a ta-da at either end this week. So in slow motion, we're going to get a curl right before the long stroke. So you're going to be thinking ta-da, and it'll go curl. And then at the other end, you're going to go straight or in slow motion. If you haven't done much with finger flexibility before, hold your bow straight out in front of you and see if you can straighten and bend your fingers. This is mostly thinking about pinky and thumb going straight, curl, straight, curl. If this is comfortable for you, you can try it horizontally, holding on with the other hand, and go straight, curl. Do that several times. And another fun thing to do, if you have a pencil handy, let your arm release onto a desk or tabletop and try picking up your knuckles this way. So you've got flat knuckles and you're picking up the pencil into a bow hold this way. If you'd like, let me see if I can hold it. If you'd like to try this on a music stand, you can also try the same motion where you're flattening out your knuckles to pick up your bow and raise it, I don't know, it's not much, maybe a ½ inch off the stand vertically by curling your fingers. Remember, the goal of this is to sit the bow on the string, completely relax your body, feel the weight in the string. It's a good idea to completely exhale first. And then make a ta-da motion. Okay, I'll mute myself and we can try that at either end. Okay, so these diagrams are helpful. I realize they have quarter notes. I prefer to think 16th note and a dotted 8th note. And forgot if that was for the person who's interested in cleaning up the difference between triplet and 16th rhythms. This is a really good way to work on it so that the 16th always belongs to the dotted 8 after it instead of the note prior. Okay, I have for us today Ondrecik. This is a nice shifting and intonation exercise, great for figuring out the geography of the whole fingerboard. And I'll chat this to you. If you can pull up in another window a drone. I like to use the drone tone tool. So I chatted that website to everyone so that you have a clear idea of tonic all the time and you're using that as a tuning note. I think it might make too much feedback if I turn it on in the background right now, so I'll let you do that after we go to mute. But I made a preliminary exercise for this so that we can first practice the shifting note to note. Go to ghost. Release to ghost. Release to ghost. And then we're going to try to establish the finger pattern. Remember, we want to hover all 4 fingers and have it in the right shape. It's hard to show you this on the screen, but if you can think or sing the solfege, I do movable do. So if we're in the key of F, I would be singing la ti do re. And as I'm singing on ghost fingers, I'm sort of pretending to play and arranging my hand in the right shape. This is for releasing tension as well as for pre-hearing the note before I play the first time. We don't ever want to be rooting around like, right? We want to pre-hear the note, and on the way to it, I'm getting ready, getting ready, getting ready, getting ready. So my finger is already traveling to the right place before I play, as you're listening in advance for the note that you want to hear. So try this little preliminary exercise, and then when we do Ondrecik, there's 2 different bowing options depending on how fast you want to go. I've been working on the whole exercise slurred between 100 and 120. And you continue with the same pattern all over the instrument. So you start, shift to 2nd position, 3rd position, 4th. If you want, you can take it to 5th. But realize that same pattern will repeat in 1st position on the next string. So again, we're staying in the key of F, and it would be helpful if at your house you put on F drone so that you're working on staying in tune in the key. On the A string, you can go up as high as you like. You can go way higher than 4th and 5th position if you like. So I'll mute and give you guys a chance to try this. All right, has everyone had a chance? Ready to go on? Okay. This exercise, I included this next page so that you can see other variations of it. If you get really great at this first pattern, there's a whole page of other ones you can try. Again, shifting your way up and down the instrument. This is great for, since you're playing the same pattern by ear, to fix your intonation in the higher positions, because the distance of your whole and half steps will adjust by ear to keep you in tune with the key. Also, for the more advanced players here, I recommend trying these different rhythms with the pattern we just practiced. So again, metronome is at 60, and you're working on these different dotted rhythms. So that's another way to make it a little bit more challenging. And the strategy, we'll come back to that another time. It just happened to be on the same page. Okay, so today is Kreutzer number 3, which is mostly for shifting. Some of you guys, well, a lot of us violists actually have trouble with strength of the pinky and being able to reach it without it collapsing. So I think this first little preview exercise is useful for getting the balance of your hand a little bit more on the back side. If you try making a little bit of a lazy wrist and some smushies, as I call them, beside the instrument, then see if you can get your finger dropping into the center of your palm so that you're centered more on the second finger instead of first while you try the shifting exercise. Try to keep your pinky nice and round. If it's still collapsing, you might try down in guitar position, putting all of your fingers right next to each other. So your pinky will be on E, but everything else will be right beside it. And to build strength, you can practice sliding your other fingers back towards first position. Until your pinky gets strong enough, you might not be able to make it all the way down to whole steps between each finger, which is where we start in this exercise. But a little bit of that every day should help build some strength. And then, this is odd, but a lot of us have trouble with left shoulder tension trying to grab the instrument also. So you might try, after you've set your fingers like this, try to get equal weight on all 4 fingers, and then see if you can hop your instrument up to this side, again keeping your weight distributed with your 4 fingers like that, and then hopping it over into playing position without reaching up to grab it with your neck and shoulder as you might have a habit. Other things about this, I wrote out different auxiliary notes as well as blocking that you'll need when you play the hard shifting part of this etude. As it starts to descend at the end of the first line, you might want to try adding grace notes, auxiliary, where you're taking the old finger to the new position. So, where am I? So your second finger is shifting down, and then you're changing bows when you go to the new finger. And that little note, I call an auxiliary note, a shifting note, to help you find the changing spacing between first and second fingers. The rest is pretty self-explanatory. I wrote out shifting notes on the 3rd line. So again, you're practicing taking the old finger to the new position. And then at the end, we're practicing double stops. So these are going to need to be blocked fingers where you're leaving 2 and 4 down at the same time when you play the etude. If you remember back to the octave page we practiced last week, you could try some of the other strategies for practicing these double stops as well. I wrote bottom, top together. You can also try top, bottom together, or any of the other strategies. So let's give this page a try. All right, so here is Kreutzer 3. I hope it's legible. If not, you can bring up your own copy. Hopefully everybody has this book. We're working on just the basic détaché bow stroke. So if you want to remind yourself of that, set yourself up in the middle of the bow. Make sure that we've got a nice square here so that everything is parallel. And this is a good time to do tap your pointer, tap your middle to tap your pinky to make sure that your hand is equally balanced on the stick. I also like to rock like this, and if I have trouble with a bow that's not straight, I might do a little bit of this. The extreme version is touch your head, touch your scroll, touch your head, touch your scroll. So you're using your pointer and your pinky to adjust the angle. What else? When we get to the hard part, you see where treble clef appears on the fourth line. That's what all of that preview stuff was for. So before playing through the etude as it is, I like to sometimes practice it swinging the rhythm so I can listen to that first scale that we did. So for example, from the treble clef. So I might want to practice it that way once. And to hear the auxiliary notes, I might also practice it stretching out the shifts like this. So adding in that little shifting note, taking the old finger to the new position. Does that make sense? All right, so again, you can practice all of this with the F drone on, unless you're just sick to death of hearing it. Okay, that's really helpful to get it all in tune in the key. All right, so this is a good one to practice all week. Definitely challenge yourself to get it really, really to a high level if you've never done these before, and certainly review the shifting part, even if it's something you did years ago. We're going to be going by circle of fifths every week, so I went ahead to the key of F major for our 3-octave scale this week. And I use the bottom fingering, so always starting with the first finger. These are based on Galamian fingerings that set up your octave hand frame. So challenge you to try it even if you've always done a different fingering before. It's a good idea to isolate the shifts first. So if you'll see, we start in third position, and you'll see there's a bit of a turn on the beginning that they wrote just as grace notes. That's just to make the math work out right when we do all the different bowings. Your first shift would be on the D string. Sorry. So that's the shift with the auxiliary note where I take the old finger to the new position. And you could also practice that on the A string shift. I'll give you a second to practice only the shifts, and then we'll go into the 3-octave scale. All right. So these are Heidi Castleman's scale fingerings. One of my students retyped them so that they're a little bit clearer and easier to read. For all of the major scales starting on the C string, we're going to use this C string majors fingering. The shift is marked with a dash, and certainly you can play from where it is written out if you have the Barber book. It's nice to just be able to carry around this one page and have all the fingerings memorized. So challenge you to try it from that. And I think if you're game, it would be fun to sort of go round robin style. Can you guys raise your hand if you'd be willing to take one of the versions? Or anybody willing to be brave? I don't know. I can't see you all, so all right. Well, we don't have to. Just because I like doing it from the first exercise. Instead of doing half notes today, I want to do bow circles for the slow version, just for fun. So I'm gonna do. You guys want to try that with me? It's good for you. Ready, and. Whoops. Let's see. I'm realizing that's a lot harder up high. Let's just continue on with the stop bows that we practiced. I forgot that I wanted to do that with scales. So do you guys prefer to have me on or just mute everybody and try it with at your own pace? Oh, nobody's chatting to me. Okay, anyway, so bow circles was a fun experiment. Let's try 2 per bow with the martelé bows we practiced last week and continue on that way. Okay. Okay, somebody asked to have me on, so if you like, follow along. I'll do 4 next. And then 6. So that was 16. You can certainly go all the way up to 24. I'll mute myself and let you guys try it some more independently. Okay, so again, I'm planning to go by circle of fifths, so that means next week is going to be B flat, which is one of the high ones. If you're just learning 3 octave scales for the first time, I put these pages here at the end, and again, all the PDFs are there at the arts.ufl.edu website if you want to download. These start all of the major scales on the first finger, so it'll get you ready for doing it in 3 octaves. If you aren't quite ready to get up into the stratosphere yet for the key of B flat, I was thinking also for the players that are more advanced, you might want to challenge yourself practicing broken thirds, since that's part of what we were working on with blocking the left hand in this Kreutzer number 3 etude. So you want to be able to leave third finger down when you play 1. Use fourth finger, not open string. Leave that down when you play 2, and it'll help with intonation and hand frame as well for playing thirds. Let's try this for a few minutes. Again, slow is good, and if you're not sick of hearing it yet, that F drone is good for this as well. All right, so again, because we're going to be doing a high one next week, a few tips for getting yourself ready this week. Remember, we started, just to review last week, we tried holding our instrument down by our side and swinging out any left arm tension this way. Giving yourself a hug and putting your instrument up here. So as much as possible, we'd like to keep legs shoulder width apart, a micro bend in your knees and hips like you're sitting on an imaginary stool, and your nose aligned with your belly button. I know a lot of people teach this way, but again, this is just a more natural, relaxed kind of posture. As you open up and get ready to play, something that you might want to practice is switching the balance from, this is called your magic X, if you find the bone at the top of your palm. And in first, second, and third position, we pretty much prop the instrument up against that bone. But around fourth or fifth, we switch to the thumb. So just practice that switch a little bit so that you're comfortable doing that, again, without clamping down on your neck, to be able to switch from balancing on your magic X to your thumb. And then holding on for security so that you're not afraid the instrument's gonna fall. Let's do the pizzicatos. So you're on the A string, pinky plucks, on the middle string around your first harmonic, and then way up to your second harmonic on the C string. Again, we want to keep contact with your thumb the whole way up, and go up into thumb position up here as you're as high as you can go on the C string. Now see if you can do one of each comfortably, and if you're comfortable with that, take the other hand away. Another thing that helps with preparing for really high three octave scales is called riding the rails. If you pretend like your A and D strings are train tracks and you're just going to gently touch your fingers between the strings as if they're cars of a train. So this is just at harmonic finger weight. We don't need more pressure than that. And see if you can keep them at the same angle, touching lightly, as you go all the way to the end of the fingerboard and back. Make sure that your thumb does not go up into outer space here. At all times, it's tracing along gently. Your arm, wrist, and fingers are moving all together. Nothing going in advance like this. And then something else that's kind of fun to do is if you wiggle the string as if you're going to do a left-hand pizzicato. I don't know if you can see that, but I go wiggle, 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 wiggle as you shift higher and higher. So this gets your fingers a little bit more on the left side of the string. I think this helps with using minimum tension. Instead of jamming your fingers down really hard right on top of the string, you're sort of leaning them from the left side. You can try that as you go up and back. And the last little preparation, you can try matching harmonics. So if you find your third finger D on the A string and find the octave harmonic under that, now find the same harmonic at the end of the fingerboard. Make sure that you're breathing and using full bows, bowing lightly close to the bridge so that they'll speak. And try maybe 4 of each. So just as a reminder, shifting up high should be no more physical effort than touching your nose like this. So we want to get your elbow used to swinging around and your hand in the right shape for playing in those high positions. And next week we'll try B flat. Please let me know if you have any questions. Chatting is fine, and you can also just hold your space bar and talk. So actually I could just unmute everybody, I think. All right. Who all is here for the first time today?
That was my first time today.
All right. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, yes,
My first time too.
We've got somebody here from Italy.
Yeah.
That's good.
Hello.
Any questions? Anybody just want to say hi?
Do you suggest standing up to practice, like when we're doing our day-to-day practice? Should we practice standing up?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, it's more comfortable. You know that you always have the issue of running into your knees if you're wearing a skirt or something like that, or you know, some people say always practice orchestra and chamber music stuff sitting and then solo stuff standing, but for me it's more comfortable just to stand anyway. All right, well, it's good to see you all. Sorry for my tech difficulties at the beginning. I'll try to figure all that stuff out, but glad you could make it, and see you again next week.
Bye.
Right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello.